The Texas shooting suspect had a history of domestic violence. Air Force records show Devin Kelley was court-martialed in 2012 for assaulting his then wife and young stepson. He fractured the child's skull. A new report based on FBI data shows 54% of mass shootings relate to domestic or family violence. In 42% of the cases, the gunman showed warning signs. They include threats of violence to others. Mary Ellen O'Toole is a former FBI profiler. She is now director of the Forensic Science Program at George Mason University and joins us from Washington. Good morning.
Good morning.
Help us understand what you have come to know about the relationship between domestic violence and these kinds of incidents.
Well, domestic violence is present in some of these cases where we can document it. In others, it could be present, we just didn't find it. But I think what's really important is that domestic violence is not a predictor for mass homicide. There are many people who do engage in domestic violence. They never go on to become mass killers. But because it's prominent in a number of cases that we've seen over time, it really does need to be considered as perhaps one of the warning behaviors that we already know about.
Okay, but what's the difference between those that do and those that don't? I mean, can we find any link that turns those that have committed domestic violence to go further?
None that I know of. None that I know of. There are other things that can really provoke someone to make the decision to go forward, and that does appear, at least in my experience, to be more personality-based than it does based on domestic violence.
Well, one Texas official said yesterday if the shooter was just angry at his mother-in-law and wanted to do something to his mother-in-law, why would he bring an assault rifle to a church venue that only had very limited access to get in and out? What does that tell you about what he was thinking?
Well, that tells me that he was not just motivated by attacking his mother-in-law who was not there. It tells me that he was really mission-oriented and that his intent was for maximum lethality. And when someone is intent on maximum lethality because they want to kill as many people as they can, engaging in that behavior makes them feel powerful. It makes them feel omnipotent. It underscores their predatory behavior, so their intent was far beyond just killing a single person.
So what can be done to prevent a person who has this kind of history? What can be? This is so troubling, Mary Ellen, that we keep seeing this over and over and over again. And you keep hearing conflicting things about the people that carry this out. Are there any warning signs or anything that we can do to prepare ourselves or be on guard for something?
Well, there are warning signs that occur before, and some of those include things like leakage, and that means that someone tells a person either directly or indirectly what they're going to do. Their behavior changes. They become obsessed with other mass killers. They begin to change their pattern of behavior, so they're either amassing more firearms or they're going out and practicing. So it's a collective set of behaviors that they display beforehand, and unfortunately, law enforcement may not be in their living room watching that behavior as it evolves. It becomes imperative that someone within the family who observes it comes forward to law enforcement because it's observable behavior. But oftentimes what happens is that family members or friends will begin to normalize it or try to handle it themselves, and it becomes uncontrollable behavior.
Mary Ellen O'Toole, thank you very much for joining us this morning.